Right now, as you're watching this video, you're completely dependent on something that could disappear in an instant. And when it does, society as we know it could collapse within just 72 hours. Every single aspect of your life depends on electricity flowing through a network so fragile that experts call it our greatest vulnerability. Your phone, your car, your access to food and water, even your ability to get cash from an ATM, all of it could vanish the moment our power grid fails. And the terrifying truth is, it's not a matter of if, but when. In this video, you'll discover the shocking reality of what happens when our power grid fails, from the first few hours of confusion to complete societal breakdown. More importantly, you'll learn exactly how to protect yourself and your family when the lights go out, knowledge that could literally save your life when others are left helpless and desperate. Welcome to Financial Area, where we explore the hidden risks that could impact your financial security and personal safety. If you find this information valuable, hit that like button and subscribe for more eye-opening content that could change your perspective on preparedness. Most people think electricity is just about keeping the lights on and charging their phones, but the reality is far more complex and frightening. Behind every byte of data, every illuminated screen, and every hum of an appliance, there's an invisible web of interdependence that most of us never consider. Think about your typical morning. You wake up to an electric alarm clock, check your phone that charged overnight, flip on electric lights, use an electric coffee maker, and maybe watch the news on your electric television. Then you drive to work, stopping for gas that's pumped by electric pumps, paying with a credit card that's processed through electric systems at a station that operates entirely on electricity. But it goes deeper than that. The water flowing from your tap, it's pressurized and purified by electric pumps and treatment systems. The food in your grocery store, it arrived there through a supply chain completely dependent on electric refrigeration, electric fuel pumps, and electric logistics systems. Your bank account, your investments, your entire financial life, it all exists as electronic data flowing through electric networks. Cell towers, internet servers, ATMs, traffic lights, hospital equipment, manufacturing plants, and even the systems that control our nuclear power plants. Every single piece of critical infrastructure in our modern world depends on a constant, uninterrupted flow of electricity. And here's what should keep you awake at night. This entire system is far more fragile than most people realize. Each component, from your local transformer to massive power plants, is susceptible to failure, whether from cyber attacks, natural disasters, equipment age, or even deliberate sabotage. Now, not all power outages are created equal, and understanding the different levels of grid failure is crucial to grasping just how serious this threat really is. Most of us have experienced neighborhood or local outages. These typically last a few hours, maybe a day, and while they're inconvenient, they're manageable. You pull out some flashlights, maybe fire up the grill, and wait it out. Outside help can usually restore power quickly because the problem is isolated. Citywide outages are more serious. When an entire city loses power, local resources get strained, but state and federal assistance can still pour in from unaffected areas. These events can last several days and cause significant disruption, but society generally holds together. Then we get to regional outages, and this is where things get truly dangerous. The United States has 3 main power grids, plus Alaska's separate system. When an entire region loses power, we're talking about millions of people affected simultaneously. Outside assistance becomes limited because the scale is so massive. Recovery efforts become exponentially more complex. But the nightmare scenario is a nationwide or global grid failure. This is the event that emergency planners whisper about but hope never happens. In this scenario, there's no outside help coming because everyone is in the same desperate situation. The cascading effects would reach every corner of society, and the consequences would be unlike anything we've seen in modern history. What could actually cause such catastrophic failures? The threats are more real and more numerous than most people realize. Cyber attacks on our power infrastructure have increased dramatically in recent years. Foreign adversaries and terrorist organizations have specifically targeted our electrical grid because they know how devastating an attack would be. Our grid systems were built for efficiency, not security, and many still use outdated technology that's vulnerable to sophisticated cyber warfare.
Natural disasters pose another major threat. Solar flares, massive enough to disrupt electrical systems worldwide, occur roughly every 150 years, and it's been about 160 years since the last major one. Earthquakes, hurricanes, and severe weather events have already caused regional outages that lasted weeks. Climate change is making these events more frequent and more severe. Our infrastructure itself is aging and failing. Much of our electrical grid was built decades ago and is operating well beyond its intended lifespan. Equipment failures are becoming more common, and our maintenance systems are struggling to keep up. A cascade failure, where one component's failure triggers others to fail, could spread across vast areas. And then there's the threat of deliberate physical attacks. It doesn't take a sophisticated military operation to bring down power grids. Small groups of terrorists, or even individuals with basic knowledge, could target key substations and transformers, causing outages that could last months to repair. Now let's talk about what actually happens when the grid goes down, because the reality is far worse than most people imagine. During the first 72 hours, most people treat a blackout like an extended inconvenience. They assume it will be fixed soon, so they wait it out with whatever supplies they have on hand. But beneath the surface, critical systems are already beginning to fail. Water treatment plants have backup power, but it's limited. Within hours, water pressure begins to drop as electric pumps fail. Water becomes unsafe to drink as treatment systems shut down. In many areas, you'll lose running water entirely within the first day. Gas stations can't pump fuel without electricity. Even if they have backup generators, they typically only have enough fuel to run for a few hours. Transportation grinds to a halt as vehicles run out of fuel and can't refuel. ATMs stop working immediately. Credit and debit card systems fail. Electronic banking becomes impossible. If you don't have cash on hand, you have no way to buy anything, assuming there's anything left to buy. Grocery stores, which typically operate on just-in-time delivery systems, run out of food within hours. Without refrigeration, perishables spoil quickly. Without electronic payment systems, many stores simply close their doors. Hospitals switch to backup power, but these systems are designed for short-term use. Life support equipment, medication, refrigeration, and critical care systems begin failing. People who depend on electrically powered medical devices at home are in immediate danger. Cell phone towers have backup batteries, but they typically only last 8 to 72 hours. As they fail one by one, communication networks collapse. You lose the ability to call for help, coordinate with family, or get information about what's happening. The psychological impact during these first 3 days is crucial. People go from annoyance to concern to genuine fear as they realize this might not be temporary. Panic buying begins, but with no way to process electronic payments and limited cash in circulation, stores quickly close or restrict access. Now, if the outage extends into the first week, we cross a critical threshold where backup systems begin failing across the board. Nuclear power plants, which generate about 20% of America's electricity, are designed with backup systems that can last about a week. After that, even these robust safeguards may fail, creating the potential for catastrophic accidents. The backup generators that keep cooling systems running require fuel, and without a functioning supply chain, that fuel can't be delivered. Hospitals become overwhelmed as backup power fails and medical equipment shuts down. Patients on life support, those requiring dialysis, and people dependent on refrigerated medications face life-threatening situations. Emergency services become stretched beyond their limits as 911 systems fail and ambulances run out of fuel. The water situation becomes dire, treatment plants shut down completely, and the water remaining in the system becomes contaminated. Sewage treatment also fails, creating serious health hazards. People begin getting sick from contaminated water, adding to the medical crisis. Food spoilage becomes widespread. Without refrigeration, massive amounts of food rot, creating both waste and health hazards. Supply chains remain completely broken. Trucks can't refuel, distribution centers can't operate, and even if food could be moved, there's no way to process payments for it.
Community bonds either strengthen through mutual aid or break down entirely as people compete for scarce resources. Without information from news sources, rumors and panic spread rapidly through communities. But if we reach the 2-week mark and beyond, we're looking at complete social breakdown on a scale that's hard to imagine. Outages lasting this long are rarely localized. By this point, we're dealing with a regional or national crisis, and the consequences become truly catastrophic. All backup systems have failed. All stored food has been consumed or spoiled. Clean water is scarce or non-existent. At this point, martial law becomes almost inevitable.
Government authorities, struggling to maintain any semblance of order, may suspend normal civil liberties. We've seen this happen even in localized disasters. During Hurricane Katrina, authorities confiscated legally owned firearms from citizens, leaving them defenseless. In a nationwide grid failure, these emergency powers would be even more extensive. Freedom of movement could be restricted. Property could be confiscated for the greater good. The Constitution itself might be suspended under emergency authority. Historical precedents show us that governments often use crises to expand their power, sometimes permanently. What starts as temporary emergency measures can become the new normal long after the crisis has passed. Groups will form for mutual support, but also for exploitation. Communities that have prepared and organized stand a better chance of survival, but they'll also become targets for those who haven't. Roving bands of desperate people may attack prepared communities, leading to violent conflicts over resources. The mortality rate would be catastrophic. Experts refer grimly to the die-off, the percentage of the population that wouldn't survive an extended grid failure. Conservative estimates suggest that in a year-long outage, 80 to 90% of Americans could die from starvation, disease, violence, or exposure. Urban areas would be hit hardest as they're most dependent on complex supply chains and have the fewest resources for self-sufficiency. Those who survived would be forced to rediscover skills that sustained humanity for millennia: growing food, preserving meat, purifying water, basic medical care, and mechanical repair without modern tools. Society would essentially revert to pre-industrial levels of technology and organization. Once an outage extends beyond a month, all bets are off. The long-term effects become impossible to predict because we'd be dealing with a complete transformation of society. The skills and knowledge that we've forgotten, but that our great-grandparents took for granted, would suddenly become more valuable than any college degree. Now, I know this all sounds terrifying, and it should. But here's the good news. You don't have to be helpless. You can prepare, and even basic preparation dramatically increases your chances of not just surviving, but thriving when others are struggling. Let's start with short-term preparedness because even getting through the first week puts you ahead of 90% of the population. For power outages lasting a few days to a week, your preparation can be straightforward and manageable. The key is having reliable light sources that don't depend on the grid. Invest in quality LED flashlights and headlamps. They use less power and last longer than traditional incandescent bulbs. But more importantly, stock up on batteries. Buy them in bulk and store them properly. Consider rechargeable batteries with a solar charger as backup. Power banks for your devices are essential. During short-term outages, being able to charge your phone could be the difference between getting help and being isolated. Get high-capacity power banks and keep them charged. Some newer models can be recharged via solar panels, making them even more valuable. Water is your most critical need. You can survive weeks without food, but only days without water. Store at least 1 gallon per person per day and plan for a minimum of 3 days, preferably a week. Don't just rely on bottled water. Get proper water storage containers and learn how to treat water from questionable sources. Water purification tablets, portable filters, and even simple bleach can make contaminated water safe to drink.